Hey, and welcome to Making Community Work, where I share the behind the scenes of what it takes to bring people together in a fun or unique way. Today, I will be sharing about a month-long ski trip in Utah with about 20 people. Yes, a lot of flights, traveling, costs, meal planning, and definitely a lot of fun. Let's get into it. The vision for this trip was to be able to spend a good amount of quality time with our friends while skiing. It's something that we have fallen in love with and want to spend as much time as we can on the slopes. Since we live in the Bay Area, it actually takes a good amount of time to get to Tahoe, at least 4 hours. We've actually found Utah to be pretty convenient in terms of skiing. Once you get there, after flying, you have 30 or 40 minutes on the road and you're at the slopes. So we thought Utah would be a great location to spend a month. We are privileged to be able to work remotely, so we thought this was a perfect opportunity to invite our friends as it works for their schedule and ski with us. So before we could get the trip started, we had to book an Airbnb. Outside of price, our main priorities was having somewhere that was close to the resorts, a place that could fit at least 6 people, and lastly, finding a place that had a lot of common space. So in terms of a place that was close to the resorts, we found that Cottonwood Heights as a good location. Not only was it a 30-minute drive to a lot of the resorts, it also had a shuttle bus that can take you there. This was especially great because we later found out that all of the weekend parking reservations were taken up, and so we had to resort to using the ski shuttle bus anyways. So that really saved our butts for our month-long there. The second thing was finding a place that fit at least 6 people. So the place we ended up finding was a 3-bedroom spot. 2 of the bedrooms had a queen or a king bed, and that last bedroom actually had 2 bunk beds. So that meant that we could fit up to 8 people. And for a lot of our trip, we actually filled the entire house. So it was really great that we could have everyone stay with us together. Lastly, having a large common space was really great for after skiing or on the weekdays where we weren't skiing to just cook and hang out with all our friends that are there. So that's how we ended up choosing the Airbnb that we stayed at. Once we got the Airbnb booked, we asked our friends to fill out an interest form. We asked them about when they would be able to stay, if they had very specific dates in mind or if their dates were more flexible, as well as their pass situation, if they had a pass, what type of pass, or if they would need to purchase tickets while they were there. And lastly, what kind of runs they were comfortable with going on. This really helped us start putting together our calendar of what friends are going to be at the Airbnb when, and try and fit people in the same level together. So in terms of the final schedule, I think this maybe was one of the hardest parts, just coordinating everyone's flights, but also like when they're gonna be there. We did a lot from the interest form to kind of ask like, hey, are these dates okay? We try to overlap friends that are from like pre-existing friend groups so they can hang out with each other. But of course, we were also open to having friends that were not in the same group be able to meet each other. So once we kind of put down some dates based off the dates that they gave us on their interest form, on if they were more flexible, trying to place them in people who either, like if they're snowboarders, try and put snowboarders together, have some proposed dates like that, and share it with the folks. So we ended up actually having a good number of days where we had a full 8 people there. And so we also had to coordinate like, okay, if one day there are 8 people staying that night, and then there's like a couple that is flying in and a couple that's flying out, figuring out that transition, figuring out like, okay, there's so many like more people on this day that need a car, figuring out the rental car. Just mapping it all out on Excel spreadsheet was really helpful. And the other part about that is also writing down, like, because the Icon Pass has some limitations on the days that you're able to be there, also writing down like, okay, we have, for example, 7 days combined at Alta and Snowbird. So I needed to spread out my Alta Snowbird days, but I still wanted to go with everyone if I can. And so spreading that out without hitting the limit, but also being able to spend time with everyone. I think everyone's pretty open to exploring every single resort that is on Icon Pass in Utah. So that was really lucky for us, as well as having night skiing at Brighton really helped as well. So yeah, setting up the schedule I think was maybe the hardest part to maneuver, making sure those dates worked. And then once we kind of have like a initial schedule, asking our friends, hey, like, does this work? How about flights? What does that look like? And then they book their flights and we finalize accommodation. The key to having your trip be so smooth and seamless between each friend coming and leaving the Airbnb is having a flight log. So once all our friends booked their flights, we sent out another interest form where they wrote out their contact information, but also all their flight details, the specific flight number that they were arriving at, what time, what day, as well as the same information when they're leaving. So with that information, we were able to write out line by line each arrival and each departure. For arrivals, we left the time the same, since by the time we left the Airbnb to go pick them up, it's roughly 20 to 30 minutes. By then, they should have left the plane, got their luggage, and be ready to go. Of course, if we had to wait, that's okay. We can hang out in the cell phone lot. But otherwise, it was pretty seamless. In terms of departures, we did edit that time on the spreadsheet to be 2 hours before, and we would indicate that it's a departure. So this way, folks can get to the airport at least 90 minutes before their flight so that they could check in their snow gear or any checked bags with ease. Once everything is lined up, you can see, oh, some friends may actually be departing on the same day that others are arriving, and you can kind of coordinate if this is going to work out for the car or not. Of course, sometimes we realize this is not the best time for us to drop someone off at the airport or pick someone up because it was 5 a.m. on a weekday and we needed our beauty rest, or maybe we were on the slopes. And in those cases, we would indicate and ask our friend if they could kindly Uber or Lyft to or from the Airbnb. Having a flight log was so crucial because we had over 30 flights to keep track of, and thankfully, none of our friends missed their flights due to our shuttling services. Yeah, as we got closer, I started to think about, okay, what are some like grocery and meal plans that we can do? We're pretty used to cooking at home and having like a rotation of meals that we do at home. But I realized, especially because we were on the slopes, they had to be like really quick and easy meals, like hot pot or like a kimchi stew or like a udon bowl or Trader Joe's orange chicken type situation where you can make the meal like really quick. These aren't like gourmet by any means, but something that we could do quickly was important. So I felt a lot better just knowing we'll have something to eat. I think that's a really big, important piece to me in terms of the food. We created an expectation stop, but we did this before February, mid-February. So 2 weeks before the trip, which sounds like really close, but I don't know, time just went by really fast. And we talked about the expenses. So for accommodation, we evenly split it depending on how many people are in the house per day. So for example, each night is 160. There's 8 people, we'll charge 20 for that night. But if the next day there are 4 people, then we'll charge 40 for that night. And we said if people cancel or get added on certain days, you'll get reimbursed or charged for the difference. Luckily, no one has canceled, but people have decided to extend their trip or add days. In terms of food, we thought about, okay, how do we split those expenses? We took care of grocery shopping for the meals and the snacks, which is kind of a heavy lift on our end. But of course, people are welcome to buy snacks and stuff or peel off for their own meals as they like. We would cover breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, assuming we cook all of those meals, and we'll have like set meals planned for that day on a weekly basis. But of course, like if people wanted to go out that day, I'm more than happy to not cook. And then at the end of the week, we calculate all the costs of the groceries. And then we did ask every person in terms of like what meals that they ate that day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then we divided like the number of meals for the weeks. And then in terms of gas, we just asked people to log in on our transportation sheet. We had a shared sheet with everyone, and we split that evenly across everyone, regardless if they sat in the car or not. And then for rental car, we also asked that people log that expense, and then we'll split it by day and by number of people, excluding myself and my partner since we drove our car all the way to Utah. And we'll do like calculations and adjustments accordingly. Typically weekly, but at the latest end of April is what we said. Transportation, I just talked about. We did a flight log. Luckily, we also talked about ski buses. We learned that there's a ski bus, and that definitely helped tremendously with our logistics, especially on days that we had to work. So we could drop people off at the station and then just go to work, and they just come back whenever with the shuttle. I talked about day activities. We said people are more than welcome to use our car, as well as take the shuttle or work with us on days we want to all co-work together. There's Wi-Fi at the Airbnb. My partner had an office in Salt Lake City, so people could go there maybe to work with him. We talked about grocery shopping, where we would try and go once a week, but people could request snacks and stuff that they would like. We talked about Salt Lake City Fun. It's like soda shop, Caputo's, gourmet market. We love it for like chocolate and cheese. We thought about going to a Utah Jazz basketball game or Utah Hockey Club game, Mormon Temple, or like a cafe. Importantly, we talked about chores. Chores wise, there was cooking, cleaning, and quote unquote like checking out. In terms of cooking, we planned meals that are relatively easy to execute, and so if people could help with prep, that would be great. Lunches, we just planned like instant ramen or sandwiches, so we had a lot of sandwich material on hand like all the time. In terms of cleaning, we'll try and use the dishwasher, which we did use. So we asked people to just clear their plates and do that, and then other things separately if people have the energy to clean it. In terms of communication, we shared that logistics and high level plans shared on our expectations doc, which I just kind of like ran through with you. And then during the month, we would share announcements on our Discord. We created like our own like channels, private channels on our Discord server to talk about it. And if people like wanted to talk, especially because they didn't know everyone in the group, to use that channel. Just so we didn't have like too many group chats going on. So yeah, that was our expectation document. I am here with the spreadsheet where I have calculated all of the expenses. So let me let you know how much everything was. Accommodation total was $4,481.30. Gas total, surprisingly, $175.41. Car rental, $683.67. Food for the whole month, $1,575.14. So the entire trip, split across 20 people, was $6,915.52. In terms of what me and my partner paid together, because we were there for the whole month, and in terms of like what we spent on food, for accommodation, of course, we were half of that, so $1,855.69. Gas, $64.50. For food, $635.35. So we spent a total of $2,555.54. So we covered basically 37% of the costs for the month, which makes sense since we were there for the whole month. Per person average was $145 for accommodation, $6 for gas, $38 for car rental, and $52 for food, which is kind of insane. So that like per person is $242.22 if we want to be specific. Of course, people had to pay for their own flight, which would add on to that. So maybe an additional $100 to $200, I would say. That is pretty much most of the expenses. Of course, there are the skiing essentials, including a pass. If you got like a season rental for your skis or something, that's like another $500. But of course, you're not using it all on the Utah trip. You're using it all throughout your winter. So skiing is expensive, but it's not too crazy. There were some additional expenses in terms of car prep that I had. Car prep, I had a issue with the fender based on a snow chain issue that I had previously, and they also found that my throttle body needed a cleaning, so that was $644.39. I needed to get new tires. I got it at Costco, $942.18, which I needed to get anyways. And then snow chains, which I would need for the season, is $102.54. So the car total was quite expensive, $1,689.11. For our road trip, we did have to spend on the hotel with the two of us, driving 6 hours each day. We did have to stay overnight in the middle, and that total came out to $312.34. And that includes both ways that we went there. So a good number of other costs. I think the only one that was specific to this trip is a hotel cost because of the road trip. The car costs, while we did it for the trip, we would have needed to do anyways. The tires that I chose, while they were winter tires, were actually cheaper than other all-weather tires, so I was happy about that. And the skiing essentials, of course, it's not needed, but if we're skiing over the winter anyways, those are costs that we had already. So yeah, the overall trip, expensive, but also not bad for a ski trip. Am I delusional? Let me know what you think. Some of the most surprising things about this trip were, one, like that we had so many nights where there was a total of 8 people in the house. That was really surprising. I think we didn't realize how many friends would be willing to go on a trip like this. Also surprising was just how much fun it is to live with your friends. It definitely opened my eyes in terms of being more willing to live with friends, just to have those really heartwarming, memorable moments where, you know, you have nothing else to do, but you're just in the house together. A little soda run or playing some games and really good memories. I mean, I knew that we were gonna make good memories, but I think I didn't expect it to be that fun. I don't know. We thought about other memories, perhaps like at a Utah Jazz game or like hockey game, but maybe not things like round one or poker, Mario Party, which are all things that we can do like here in California, but it's different, I guess, when you're all together somewhere else and like being able to cook together, clean together, just live together. Some things that I would do differently if I were to do it again. For what it was, I think a month long was great. If I were to do it again, I don't know if I would do a month. I ended up missing my apartment and home here in California a lot. But I think that's just like a me thing. In terms of doing things differently, I would order more actually on Instacart, especially Costco items, so that we don't need to spend time at the grocery. It is a little more expensive than usual, but I think it's okay. I think that is mostly what I would do differently. The villager to make the village happen moments is definitely doing the logistics of it, coordinating the schedules, being open to picking up people and dropping off people for their flights, but also driving from California to Utah, 12-hour trip, which was still fun in its own right. You can see the salt flats and planning meals in terms of what to eat. But at least doing the planning up front helps a lot for when you're actually there. We also brought a lot of our own kitchen essentials like cutting board, chef's knife, a few pots and pans, just because you never know what kind of situation you're gonna end up with in terms of living in an Airbnb and if their kitchen essentials are good. And I'm really glad that we did because they were very mediocre, average, below average. I would definitely do this experience again. It may not necessarily have to be skiing, but I think that is a really good excuse to just be with people for a prolonged period of time. Yeah, and it was really nice because it was in Utah, we were able to see people who we don't normally ski with in California. Some people flew in from Texas. Some people flew in from New York that we don't normally get to see. So it was just nice being able to have that dedicated time with them. I think my screen time overall really fell significantly for that month. And I'm so lucky that we were able to do that. Yeah. We kept getting asked like, oh, would you do this again? And we're like, maybe. It is a lot of work, if I'm being honest, but being able to spread it out, I think made a really big difference. And now like looking back on it, I think it was like such a good memory. And yeah, if I had never done it before, I would definitely do it. If in terms of doing it again, I think I would just do it on a smaller scale. Okay, I think that concludes Making Community Work for this episode on a month long in Utah with 20 friends. So let me know what your thoughts are, if you have additional questions, or if you would do something like this in your future. Okay, thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking through all the little details that made this memorable trip happen for me and my friends. Okay, bye.